Hey, good people, this is your NI Dom back with another YouTube reflection, and this is a personal journal for contemplative people looking to think, grow, and have impact in the world. So, hey, I'm laughing because I thought that I was going to be able to do a conversation about a mediocre white man in one 15-minute reflection. How utterly wrong I was. So, we are in the fifth installment of this conversation, and I do believe I'm at the end. In the fourth reflection, I'm finally talking about being an entitled power holder. And so, this conversation that I had with this white man about asking him to be my coach for fundraising never really was about him being my coach for fundraising, but it was more about him. In all fairness, maybe he was trying and he just didn't have the skill because he doesn't know the theory of fundraising. Maybe he intuitively knows, right? Maybe intuitively he's a great fundraiser, but he doesn't know the theory of it to transfer it over. And I believe that he has helped other people to do fundraising. But I suspect that there are other things he brings to the table that allows him to be a good fundraiser that has very little to do with the skill of fundraising and has more to do with his access, being able to be in the room with the right people and being in and having the right context to come across as legitimate and of value when he is in the right room. So I think that when you have access to power, you have access to the rooms, you have access to be at the table, and you have the privilege of being credible by simply being in your body, where some people have to work harder to establish credibility because their body renders them as incredible and not credible. It can't be incredible. Their body renders them as not having credibility. Okay. I think maybe the word is uncredible. I don't know, but either way, I believe when you've had that type of access and privilege, and then you enter into a conversation where someone is asking you for an expertise that you actually don't have, instead of you being able to say, listen, I can't do this because I don't believe I would be really good at it. I don't think I could serve you. I don't even think you have the wherewithal to consider the fact that you might not have the skills to do it. I think you're more used to having access and power that you lean into that because that's what feeds you. You want more of that. And so, do I think all white men function that way? Absolutely not. I have too many white male friends to say something so stupid, right? That would just be a stupid thing to say, that all white men are mediocre. That's ridiculous. But I do wonder if mediocrity and power shows up in a particular way, like the conjoining of being, and when I say mediocre, I'm just mean being average, right? There's nothing wrong with being average. But I think if being average doesn't lend itself to giving you the power that you're used to, because your PowerPoint, here it is, your PowerPoint isn't by skill. So we all have different access to power, right? We just doesn't matter our bodies that we're in. We all have different access to power. Some of us have multiple access to power. But I think that if your skill level isn't one of your access points for power, you're not going to lean into the skill. You're going to lean into something else. And so I think the whole point about the framing mediocre white man is really taking that together. It's by acknowledging power that comes by way of race, white, power that comes by way of gender, man, and then it's juxtaposing it to when you just have an average skill set. So your skill set isn't your PowerPoint. Okay, now let's flip that. I'm going to be honest. I have a skills, a PowerPoint around skill. I don't have all skills, but I do have power on a particular set of skills. I have power on a particular set of skills, and I have power on a particular knowledge base, which allows me to delineate that when I'm in a space that's not using my skills or my knowledge base, then you'll see me go, I don't know that. I don't have that. And I'm very comfortable with acknowledging where I'm lacking in skill and knowledge because I know what it's like to have skill and knowledge, right? So I have a higher consciousness of my skill set, where my skills start and when they end. And I'm comfortable with that as a PowerPoint. And I know when I am without power because I don't have the skills and the knowledge, right? And because we live in a social society that is governed by these different hierarchies. There's a top and there's a bottom. There's a racial hierarchy. There's a gender hierarchy. And if you're listening to me and you don't agree with that, then that is fine. But this whole podcast is going to bother you. But as a person in a racialized body and in this country, there has been a history of demonstrating that blacks are at the bottom of a racial hierarchy. There's just a history of that. That really can't be contested. And then there's a history of seeing that women are at the bottom of the two gender hierarchy. But maybe now that we have the transgender, now maybe women are not at the bottom of that. So I think that there's a valid conversation to have about gender and power in the hierarchy. Okay, but let's just say historically, women have had less power than men. So when you take my body as a black woman, and that automates me and positions me in the hierarchy without me ever opening my mouth, right? And I'm talking to a white man without him ever opening up his mouth, a power structure has been established. All right, that's fine. I mean, it sucks, but it is what it is, right? I'm 53, almost 54 years old. I've lived that. That's fine. But then when you try to situate the conversation around a skill set that the person with the power historically doesn't have the power as it relates to the skill set, he's not going to lean, if he's used to having the power, he's not going to lean and say, hey, I don't have the skills. What he's going to do is redirect the conversation to make sure to protect his power, right? And so I think when I woke up this morning, I'm like, that's a mediocre white man. What I'm saying is he didn't have the skills, but he had the power, and what he was trying to do is maintain it. I think that's what I was saying. I think that's what that framing says, at least for me. Is it a pejorative? I think so. If you say all white men are mediocre, that would be gravely false. It's false, right? If you say that all white men bring to the table a certain set of historical powers, a set of historical privileges, that's not offensive. That's empirically true. It's just empirically true. Let me think here. So I don't think it's empirically false to say that white men bring to the table a certain set of historical powers. Okay, I don't think that's negative. The notion of calling this man mediocre, well, was that lazy? Okay, because it took me an hour and 15 minutes to explain it. So when I woke up with the framing mediocre white man, that was a shortcut. That was a shortcut of saying he didn't have the skill set. Now, I didn't understand for the last hour and a half of me unpacking this, which is what my podcast usually is, 90 minutes. So those of you who've wondered why I do 90-minute reflection, here's an example. Because you have to get, as an NI-Dom, you can be given an impression, a flash of insight, but the moment you start trying to articulate that insight out, it's layered, it's contextual, and you have to spend the time to get inside of it. So was it lazy for me to say he was a mediocre white dude? Okay, I don't agree. Think it was lazy, but I can see why somebody would argue that because I didn't have the time. I didn't when I woke up, I wasn't going to sit down and write a dissertation to unpack all of that. So it was a shortcut. It was an abridged version of being able to say what I've said in 90 minutes. So I think as I close this, I really just want to make this point that there was a lot in that conversation with that man yesterday, that white man, a lot. And I woke up with saying he was a mediocre white man as an abridged version to capture all of the nuance of that conversation I had with this other human. And as I'm thinking now, I don't think that I was, well, I don't know if that's true. I want to say I don't think I was being pejorative when I was like, I don't think I was being slanderous. I don't think I was being mean. I kind of want to say that. I think I'm just saying he was mediocre in terms of his skills as relating to coaching. He was mediocre in his skills as it relates to fundraising. And I think he was not mediocre. I think he was woefully unskilled as it related to communicating. Okay? I don't think that that's a negative assessment. I really don't. Now, even if you come back to me and you say, I think that assessment is wrong, you're NIDOM, that's fine. But being wrong isn't necessarily saying I'm being negative. I'm just wrong, right? So I think that if I'm really honest, there was an aspect of emotionality to me saying a mediocre white man. Because here's the emotion. He objectified me. He stripped me of my agency. He didn't give me what I was really looking for, which I don't have emotions around that. I think the emotions that I woke up with that I wasn't acknowledging until this very second was that he rendered me void of agency, subjectivity, intellect, effectiveness, all of the things that are important to me. So in that 15-minute conversation with him, I was stripped of my humanity. So yes, I think it would be untrue if I simply said I woke up with this concept of mediocre white man as strictly an empirical truth. I don't think it was just an empirical truth. I think there was some emotionality to that as well. And as INTJs, our emotions aren't at the forefront. I was not going to be able to get to the emotions of that until I spent an hour and a half working through all of the other aspects. Okay? So, I think the framing mediocre white man in that particular case was both true and it was pejorative. I think those both are accurate. That's what I think. I would love to know what you guys think about this entire 5-part reflection that was supposed to be a single 15-minute reflection. I didn't even do my disclaimers, but let's do that now, okay? You guys, if you're new to this project, this is a personal journal where I process my inner and my outer worlds. I do so primarily by using personality theory, your MBTI, and the Enneagram. But I also talk about issues around social justice and leadership and trauma healing, right? If this reflection about a mediocre white man in terms of it being both empirically true and emotionally driven, if this conversation about that relates to a conversation you've had in the world, please take this link and share it with those participants. If my moving about in this 5-part series is called Some Randomness Inside of You, I would love to hear it. You can find me on my website at yournidom.wordpress.com or right here in YouTube land. You guys, I don't give an assignment in the YouTube channel, but I want to tell you, it has been a pleasure hanging out with you. Let me just remind you guys, season 10 will start in February of 2025. So please come back, find me on your podcasting platform and follow me there. But you guys, it's been a pleasure hanging out with you. Until I come back, be well. Bye.